3 senior White House officials were involved in sharing intelligence documents with Devin Nunes. The Post names Ezra Cohen Watnick and Michael Ellis, but it also names the top lawyer for the National Security Council, John Eisenberg. And joining us now are Malcolm Nance, MSNBC counterterrorism and intelligence analyst, Nayyera Haq, former senior director in the Obama White House working on national security issues, and Kathleen Clark, professor of law at Washington University in St. Louis, and she's one of the country's leading experts on ethical standards for government officials. Thank you all for being here. Malcolm, I'm going right to you, because when I say we've been having the same conversation for almost a year, I literally mean that that's true, because we talked about Michael Flynn, and you were making these predictions about him last summer. I believe it was July 27th during my weekend show that you first started saying these things. So I want to start with this guy, Watnick. If folks will recall, there was a Politico story that H.R. McMaster, who was the replacement for General Flynn, actually tried to get rid of Watnick. This is what Politico reported. Donald Trump overruled a decision by his new national security advisor, Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, to sideline a key intelligence operative who fell out of favor. This guy, Cohen Watnick, appealed McMaster's decision to have his own guy in there to influential allies. He went to Jared. He went to Jared Kushner. He went to Steve Bannon. They brought the matter to Trump. Trump overruled them. Does this prove that H.R. McMaster was prescient in trying to get rid of this guy who clearly politicized the NSC?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he was very prescient, but what you've seen here is you've seen the limits of a four-star general who could not get rid of a junior, extremely junior intelligence analyst. Let me tell you something about Watnick. He's 30 years old, and at the top, if he graduated university like everybody else does with a bachelor's degree at 24, and he got a year's training while at Defense Intelligence Agency, he would have 4 years experience in an analytical position. How he got to this position at the White House is a disgrace. Because even the most junior operatives at the CIA and other agencies, you're usually a watchstander. You're just the guy who runs out and gets coffee. But he managed to become the top intelligence official on the National Security Council staff, overruling a general of this magnitude. This is an example of incompetence at the White House, and this guy is now going to have to answer for exactly why he misused classified material for a political purpose, which is not what classified material is for.
But, you know, and Kathleen, you wonder, is it incompetence or something else? Because if this young man who was working for General Flynn at some point decided when Donald Trump claimed that there was a wiretap that he went maybe searching, let's say, for his boss's name, the only name we know that was unmasked in potentially legal surveillance of foreign phone calls was Michael Flynn. Should this person have been searching through national security data in order to prove a White House theory?
Well, it sounds like what you're theorizing is that there may have been a political intention in searching through the intercepts, and that would be clearly a violation of ethical standards and a misuse of those intercepts for political rather than national purposes.
Yeah, and if it's a violation, is it illegal?
I believe it could be, but it also can be difficult to prove that someone's intention is political as opposed to following their job. So, again, another issue really is, as your other guest mentioned, what was this person doing in this job, and whether or not going to, you know, Jared Kushner and others to protect his job was the appropriate thing, appropriate use of the power structures within the White House.
Well, that is a question of why he would be so determined to stay in the job and sort of be almost a leave behind for Michael Flynn once Michael Flynn was out. Let's play Adam Schiff, who commented on the New York Times report about the 2 White House officials allegedly being the ones to hand over intel information to Devin Nunes. Here is Adam Schiff today.
If, in fact, the National Security Council staff that discovered these materials reportedly in the ordinary course of business are the same national security staff that provided them to the chairman, to be provided to the president, it raised a profound question why they were not directly provided to the White House by the national security staff. If that was designed to hide the origin of the materials, that raises profound questions about just what the White House is doing.
Nayyera, is there any ordinary course of business that you can remember from your time at State that you could envision staffers at the National Security Council just happen to be looking through intercepts trying to find American names? And if they, let's say, even had that kind of ordinary course of business, is there any kind of other provision, like a whistleblower provision? Why would they not, as Adam Schiff said, not go right to the NSA, right to the White House directly? Why would it go through a totally separate branch of government?
Right, and absolutely, there are strict provisions on the ethical side to prevent people in positions of power at the White House and the State Department and guidelines from going through information that would uncover personal information about private citizens. So that's problem number one. I mean, you're right, the State Department issues every single passport in the country, and people have been fired for randomly looking up passports of celebrities, for example, just to see what the photo looked like. So there's a lot of information the government holds, and the American public trusts that the government at the highest levels is protecting our privacy. So that's problem number one, is the privacy challenge. Problem number two is that this is a White House that is not interested in protecting the checks and balances of our government, the fundamental elements of our democracy that make America work. The oversight committees are supposed to be conducting oversight. They're not supposed to be colluding with the White House. They're the ones responsible for actually making sure the White House is doing its job within the rules of the Constitution. So having secret closed-door meetings with lawyers at the White House, sharing information with select members of the majority party, highly problematic, not just from a legal standard, but also from the integrity of our system.
Yeah, and you know, Malcolm, Sean Spicer today tried to claim that there was a letter that was sent apparently by the White House seeking information to determine whether Donald Trump's tweets were actually true. But on this program, the host of this program, Lawrence O'Donnell, has been asking over and over, why hasn't anybody asked Paul Ryan, who essentially is Devin Nunes's real boss, not Donald Trump, whether or not Nunes consulted with him about what to do with the information he's got from these maybe 3 leakers? Let's listen to Paul Ryan answering that question today.
He had told me that like a whistleblower type person had given him some information that was new.
Did you encourage him to then go tell the president about it?
No, but I told him to just add it to his investigation.
So you at no time said, whatever you find out, you should probably go tell President Trump about it?
Oh, he was going to brief everybody. I already knew he was going to go and brief. So what Chairman Nunes said is he just came into possession of new information that he thought was valuable to this investigation, and that he was going to go and inform people about it.
Malcolm Nance, have you ever heard of a situation where a congressional investigation results in the chief investigator running to the target and telling them information that they got off of national security intercepts by a, quote, whistleblower?
No, and Jeremy Bash, who was the chief of staff at the CIA and also worked on the House Intelligence Committee, he said in his entire career he's never heard of anyone ever doing this on the intelligence committees. It's just not done. And what you have here is you've got a situation where you essentially are going to that target, as you said, and you are telling him he's under investigation. But on the other hand, now that we're seeing this information about Watnick come out, you had people who were cleared going onto classified systems, drawing out special intelligence, which, by the way, is the most secret of secrets that we have, and taking that special intelligence, calling up the investigator, telling him that you have information, bringing him into the White House for him to review it, and then he goes out and gives a press conference about that. This is beyond unusual. Watnick needs to lose his clearance today.
Yeah.
The National Security Agency needs to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to let this guy use our classified systems anymore, because they are abusing these systems for their own personal reasons, which, of course, in the end were political and not intelligence related at all.
Yeah.
And that is a violation of their security clearance.
And that is...
Go on quickly, Nayyera.
Yeah, and that is part of why he was likely trying to be called back from his home agency. I mean, this is somebody who the home agency is supposed to be representing them. They're trying to pull him back. They weren't happy with his work and what he was doing. No. But you have the senior advisors and the political appointees saying, no, we just like this guy. He's doing our bidding.
Right.
And so there was already a politicization of this role that's supposed to be strictly nonpartisan.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Steve Bannon, formerly of Breitbart.com, is also sitting on the National Security Security Council where he shouldn't be. Very quick to you, Kathleen. Is there any circumstance under which Paul Ryan could be right in calling these people who went in and got this information and gave it to the White House whistleblowers?
Well, if they were disclosing some kind of wrongdoing, you could characterize them that way, but that would not justify going to the person who's being investigated and disclosing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that is pretty clear to everyone, except maybe Devin Nunes. We'll ask him about that if he'll come on the show. Malcolm Nance, Nayyera Haq, and Kathleen Clark, thank you all for joining us. Really appreciate it.